questions asked of each other out there when things aren't going well? Are you asking for more of your mate?
Definitely not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
We can sit here and review the games and all that, but you blokes, you know the efforts and what you're after and the responses you need. We're going to draw it out. And this is the part where the teams that I've been involved in, there was blokes saying, that ain't good enough, mate. Lift your game. It's not like he doesn't like you, but we're playing for spot in the final. That's the level of responsibility you have to your mate, to the team, to the footy club. You don't need to sit there and say, I'll battle it, next one. Hey, Pato, that ain't good enough. Or Ro, that's in a bounce, mate. Come on. We've got to ask more of each other, not allow it to happen. If you've got someone and you've got it done and you hand them over, do your job for me. I'm trusting you. That's what we're going to get to. Bad luck. We control the environment. We control our attitude. And we'll be okay because we've got a bit of talent. And we'll show some things. But we never be the team we want to be until we ask each other to when it counts.
Hello everyone and welcome to Unpluggered. Well, it's many parts it's been a slow motion train wreck, but at the same time we cling on to whatever hope there is. After another feeble performance, we feel like we've thrown around the terms best win of the year and worst loss of the year on a number of occasions this year, but it would be hard to argue against that title going to what was dished up on Friday night. It was every bit as bad as the Essendon game and probably worse given what was at stake and the extreme level of uncompetitiveness in the early part of the game. We have the West Coast Eagles who have been on their knees for much of the year this week in what is effectively our last chance to make an impact. And let's be honest, if results go according to favouritism this weekend, we'll be in the 8 come Sunday night. So you have to then fight on. We've spoken about this on a number of occasions. I was in the Daintree rainforest last Friday night with no phone reception and no television. The only place that had any phone reception at all was the main restaurant in the lodge that we were staying at. So popping down there and noticed a score at quarter time and then didn't get another score until about 5 minutes before three-quarter time. So, H, I might hand you first honours. I've watched the game since, but with the benefit of being on replay and knowing what had happened. So you can maybe take us through what it was like to watch it live.
It would have been nice to be up there, to be honest. It was pretty ordinary. It's the sort of game you sat there sort of. I reckon I pretty much only watched it with one eye because I had my head in my hand for most of the game. It wasn't good viewing, and you just sort of sit back and just think, oh, what are we doing? What do we call this effort if we actually call it effort at all? They didn't feel interested. They did not feel interested in being first the ball, being the one to do this, the one to throw themselves in front of the ball to win it back for us, to not sit back and think, oh, that someone else would do this. And we were discussing last week saying that they're a clean team. They like to have their open space. They like to move the ball around. Just let them do it. They're sitting back going, why are we just letting them play the game they want to play? You look at how we played against Carlton. They are quite similar in the way they want to play. We pressured them, and it stopped their momentum. It stopped them being able to play that sort of football. All we have to do is play that same sort of football against the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs aren't that good a team at the moment. They can be really good when they're up and about, but at the moment they're not great. But we may have played them back into a little bit of form. We sort of let them, just have a bit of a training drill and figure out what's working, what's not working, and they just went out there and had a bit of fun. So it was till the last quarter came along, you sort of thought there was just no effort in it whatsoever, and it took a took an injury sub to actually look like we had a bit of fire out there, which was quite disappointing. You watch the last quarter, and I mean, you watch it backwards, and you think, well, we're out of the blocks, and then died off. But it was almost saved all the effort to the last quarter, and it was a pretty ordinary Friday night, which just ruined your weekend after having to watch something like that.
It's the effort thing's a really good point. I was a bit like you, Parker. I was away and saw bits and pieces of the first half, and then settled in the hotel to watch the second half, unfortunately. And fortunately, unfortunately, whatever, saw that last quarter. And I mean, it's just the fire was out of that game. There was the Dogs had put the cue in the rack. There was nothing for them to play for, really. At times, this team teases you and thinks maybe there's some hope that you're going to come back from 8 goals down. And we've done it before, so why can't we do it again? But it never really looked likely. And even in those fleeting moments where you thought maybe they are putting some play together that's worthy of something, invariably they'd go and waste that effort in front of goal, or give the ball back or whatever it was. I mean, this team is not confusing anymore. It's funny. A few weeks ago, we've spoken about kind of the two personalities and trust. Yet you have no trust in this team. And we spoke earlier in the year about how maybe we're getting to the point where we can trust this team and the culture within the group and the squad, the environment and the atmosphere and all of that sort of stuff. That stuff's gone. Like that's done. That doesn't exist. Those conversations that we had, at the bye and the few weeks before the bye, that's done. That team doesn't exist anymore and has potentially gone the other way. All those conversations around how well the team has gelled together, the culture in the squad and around the team and within the four walls, in the inner sanctum, how well they all get along with each other. The team is too nice. They're too nice. They're too timid. We saw that footage after the game that I don't know whether it was good or bad that the club released it. I don't know whether it was good or bad that it had to happen in the first place. But Ratton telling the boys in the rooms, you've got to tell them when they fuck up. You've got to tell them when they're not good enough. Like, it can't be just, next time, you'll get them next time. Like, good effort. Sorry, you didn't get there. Like, just fucking get there. Go and do the job that you're being paid to do. The fact that we're having to have these conversations, this team is in what year of a rebuild? Like, how many times do we need to have these conversations? Why do these guys that are 25, 26, 28, 30 need to be told to toughen up? This shouldn't happen. This is a professional football club. Why does this conversation need to happen at this point of the season? Every week, it's like, this is another must-win game. This is your final chance. Somehow we have another chance to be in the 8 this weekend, which is like, if I had hair, I'd be pulling it out. Like, this is crazy. How do we still have a chance to be in the 8? We had the same conversation last year towards the end of the year. Like, how is this even possible? And how do we keep fucking it up week after week after week?
It's interesting, the fragility of the confidence. I mean, that was one thing that stood out to me at the start of the year, was that, the game was on the line against Fremantle. We lifted and won it. The game was on the line against Richmond. It was us. The Giants heaped pressure on us. We had injuries. We had no right to win, but we withstood that. The Geelong game, we fought back. We showed character. We showed, mental resilience and all of that sort of stuff. And obviously there was years of disappointment and distrust, which obviously made it hard to truly believe that. But you saw it a few times and you thought, okay, maybe that's a new DNA that they've put in place. But unfortunately, some of those bad habits have crept back in again. And it suggests to me, it's funny. It looks like a lack of effort. I'm sure it isn't. I mean, obviously, if they lay 12 tackles in the first half, that's embarrassing, particularly when you've lost the clearances 22-8 or whatever it was at the main break. So the Bulldogs have the ball and they're out defending you at the same time, which is the ultimate indictment. But I don't think it's effort. I think it's fragility of confidence, where players aren't running to assist the way that they normally would. They're not running to the next contest because they don't have faith in either winning the ball or their own ability to get there, or, that for whatever reason, their faith in the system that they're trying to put in place breaks down. And it looks like you're hesitant and you're almost not putting in, and your work rate's not where it used to be or where it's supposed to be. But I sense that stems largely from confidence more than anything. But there's no reason why their confidence should be that brittle. We've spoken a lot about big occasion games and big moments that we often fall over in, but you can't get anywhere unless you've got an ability to deal with that type of pressure. And, that was another season on the line game, and we fell in a hole.
Is that,
yeah?
Fragility of confidence, is that strong enough? Like, I feel like we, as fans, often we try and give them the benefit of the doubt as much as possible. And I kind of feel like it's part of what we do on this program is that, the history of this football club is tragedy and failure. And so, we kind of have to keep a bit of the positivity and, we've got to keep that going for our own sanity more than anything else. But is it fragility of confidence, or is it plain and simple mental weakness?
Combination of both. Obviously, we're dealing with upwards of 40 players. It's interesting now. A lot of us looked at that Brett Ratton thing post-game and thought, he could have gone harder, and maybe we would have gone harder. And obviously in the full version, he does go reasonably hard. But we know that football's not what it used to be. Anyone who's played footy has copped, even as a group, huge sprays in the past. They don't work for everybody. Obviously, some players react to a big rev, other players do not. It needs to be a different sort of approach to them. But I like that, putting it on them, that responsibility, saying, don't just go, no, mate, you'll get the next one. It's like, no, mate, we need more from you in that contest. That can't happen.
We needed that one.
Yeah, exactly. You simply have to get it done. You've got to, you can do it. We've seen you do it before. It's a non-negotiable that you get to that contest and assist, so that it's not a 3-on-2. You've got to even that contest up. You've got to get to the loose player in defence. You've got to call someone back if there's a loose player through the middle of the ground. That all of those basic fundamentals have to happen. So, if
you haven't got the ball, get to somewhere where you're going to get the ball, or protect the player with the ball. They're your three options. You've either got it, you're getting to where it's going, or you're protecting the one with it. And the other two don't seem to be happening much recently. So there's your, as you're saying, your lack of confidence, lack of ability, or not necessarily ability, but at times it can be, I guess, lack of ability to read the play and read the situation.
And I wonder whether the caution to the wind aspect. So the Fremantle game early in the year, we were 3 goals down. We had to attack. We got on a roll and rode the momentum. Richmond, we were 4 goals down, then kicked something like 11 in a row, just rode the wave. Geelong, 4 goals down. Again, you got to throw caution to the wind. But, the Melbourne game, we went into our shell and played far too conservative from the start, and we were gone. The Port Adelaide game, we didn't handle a change of venue and a change of conditions well at all. When we were expected to beat Essendon, we got big heads. Then a game against the Bulldogs where the season was on the line, we were a deer in the headlights and had no idea. So I wonder whether that fragility, if you look even at the wins, based on the circumstances of the victory, it was when they were able to throw caution to the wind and didn't have to sustain that pressure that was on them right from the start.
Just need to just go for it.
Well,
when we've seen so many times this year when we've had this free open play, teams haven't been able to keep up with us. How about we just start playing like that? If that doesn't work, maybe then change it up. Don't try and settle into the game to begin with. Hit them hard first thing.
We've said a number
Hit
of
them hard
times.
first in the match, and
that's been the issue all year. Like those moments where we try and control a game or overpossess or defend, over defend, etc. And we become really static. We become slow, lethargic, static, stagnant. That's not boring. Yes, but also we don't have the accountability. We don't have the discipline to play that team. We don't have the discipline to play like a Hawthorn of the early 2000s or early 2010s, 2014, 15, etc. We don't have the discipline of the Geelong of the late 2000s, etc., to play that game, that ultra uber possession game where you've got to have pinpoint foot skills to be able to do it. We don't have the skill set. We don't have the discipline. We don't have the accountability. But when we do almost throw caution to the wind, like you said, Darren, like it's just, we're so much more exciting. And even if we don't win the game, like, it's exciting to watch. You feel like they're giving a shit. You feel like they're putting the effort in and they're playing their brand. Like, playing your game style isn't always going to deliver a win, but that's your brand. It's who you are. It's what you stand for. And I don't really know what we stand for. I don't really know what our game style is at the moment, because we so often come into a game playing that static, stagnant style of football, and it doesn't work. And then you change it. You go to plan B, and it's play offensive football. It's take the game on. It's use the corridor. It's kick long, kick to a contest. You attack the footy, attack the ball, attack the man. And all of a sudden we start playing football again. And it looks like we've got some passion and some energy and intensity. And I just wonder, why isn't that our plan A? Why isn't that our game plan? And then if that doesn't work, then try and switch something around and try and, regroup and gather and possess and all that type of stuff. It's pretty clear that that's what works for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see the numbers, like us compared to other teams, because I had the feeling that we've probably had more goals kicked off, like a loose ball or a chaos ball or whatever, picked up off the ground, kicked the goal, than most teams. Because that's how we've had to have kicked goals this year a lot of the time. A few weeks ago against Carlton, most of our goals came from either a swarming pack running into the 50 and handballing it around and kicking the goal between them, or loose players off the ground, including King.
Well, we were essentially the number one team for goals or scores and score opportunities from turnover and from rebound 50. We'd win the ball and we'd move it fast into attack. We'd have an opportunity. We were the number one or number two in that metric, and pretty much way down the table in anything else, including scores from stoppage, including scores from whatever.
Marks inside 50. That's been probably our worst. Yeah.
And once upon a time,
turnover and rebound 50 was kind of where that was our brand.
Once upon a time, these numbers would have read well, but they actually point to concern. If you look at our defensive end, where you had, these numbers: Wilkie 16 marks, Battle 14 marks, Webster 12 marks, Sharman 10 marks, Membry 12 marks, sort of pushing up the ground.
Wood 13.
Yeah, Wood 13 marks. It suggests, a lack of desire to pull the trigger and move the ball quickly. Now, Wilkie was fantastic, but
also a lack of defensive pressure everywhere.
Correct.
Else.
So it's basically you win the ball in defence and you're just looking after it. You're sort of sitting on it, chipping it around, and because either you don't have the options to go or you don't have the bravery to go. And it happened a bit against Essendon, where you turn the ball over, you try to play bold, you turn the ball over once or twice, and it's almost like collectively the group's like, oh, we've got to put that away. Can't do that anymore. When you've just got to keep going, you can't be that fragile. And obviously, if you're that fragile, you don't look like a finals team. But as you say, we banked enough games early in the season to actually still be alive. So, it's a question of whether they can get that back, because you often judge teams by what their best footy looks like. Our best footy this year has beaten Geelong, who have looked unstoppable since then. They've beaten Richmond, blew them away for an hour, beat Fremantle in Perth. Have beat Carlton on a Friday night at Marvel, their only loss at the venue this season. So there are some capabilities there, and occasionally I can get accused of being sort of too optimistic. But my view is that for all of the doom and gloom, if we win this week, like we should, and look, I think somebody said banana peel game. That normally we say these games are a banana peel game. For this game is the entire banana plantation for us. It's a disaster if we lose the game. Like there could not be a more clearer indication that you're fucked than if you lose this type of game. So if there's a pulse, if you win this, then you start favourites against Hawthorn. If you can somehow roll two in a row, Richmond play Fremantle this week, and then I think they play Port Adelaide in Adelaide or something. The Bulldogs have got Melbourne this week and then Geelong, I think. So there is a chance for us to make a move with a tough fixture to end the season, but to take 8th spot in the next couple of weeks and say, you've got to catch us in the last 3 weeks. So that has to be the aim. A lot of people have thrown the toys out of the cot, and I totally understand that, but there is still a final spot up for grabs, and we can be there Sunday night if we can get our shit together.
I think I saw a stat. We still are 23% chance to make the finals or something around that range. So, results went our way on the weekend. Who says results can't keep going our way? And
Exactly.
I mean, we've got to do it ourselves first and foremost. We have to win our games. I think I had a look at myself at one point. My belief is we can drop one match.
Yeah, that's it.
Otherwise,
No more.
that's it. There's no, if we've lost two, season over. The results just can't fall that way enough after two losses. So while we'll take one, it'd be nice not to have any, but I don't see us winning all five. I think Geelong down there is possibly the one where.
Yeah, we're in a position where we've probably got to beat Sydney and Brisbane at Marvel.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Which is, it's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's doable. Let's not beat around the bush. Like when we play our football, when we turn up and put in the effort and the intensity and the energy, we can play some
at our ground. Yep.
Pretty good football.
We
know that. We've seen it, and I think that's what makes having these discussions so frustrating every couple of weeks is that we know we can play good football. We've seen it. It's just do it consistently.
Yeah, and we're not talking about, from my point of view, blind support. I mean, as supporters, we do our bit. They don't always do theirs as a club. We know that. We don't let them down. They've let us down frequently. Like we're here all the time. We'll be here when they retire. We'll be here when the next generation retires, and we'll be here when the last generation retires. Like we always front up. But really, that's all we can do. With 5 weeks to go, we ask the questions each week as to where it's gone wrong and what can get better. But all we can do is fight the fight from our end. So be there, support, continue to, get behind the push for finals. And if they don't make the finals, you can post-mortem it and pull it apart and do whatever you like. But at the moment, there's still a job to do. Now, we don't have really any control over that whatsoever. But all we can do is, get behind that effort to win 4 of the last 5, whether we think they're good enough or not. And no doubt we will do that. No doubt we'll fight on like we always do. And we just have to hope that they uphold their end of the bargain.
It's there and make some noise. That's
right.
All we can do.
I mean, that's the thing is you're in two camps, aren't you? As a St Kilda supporter, you're in the camp of it's the hope that kills you, and so you don't hope, or it's the hope that kills you, and I'm going to die hoping. So I feel like we're kind of split. St Kilda fans down the middle right at the moment. There's a bit of division around fans of the footy club. Like, is it worth? Can I keep doing this to myself? And I think we all have that conversation internally with ourselves and with each other, from time to time. But I think, ultimately we're St Kilda supporters and this is part of who we are. And unfortunately, we're used to it, but we keep turning up week after week.
Votes out of that debacle. H, you saw it sort of start to finish. Our votes are kind of in retrospect, but what do yours look like?
The first one I'm giving is he only played 1 quarter of football, but he came on and actually showed some of the other players actually how they should have been playing the first 3 quarters. Ben Long came on like he had a rocket up him. I don't know if he was sitting too close to rats on the bench or something and he was copping it, or he was getting slaps on the back of the head or something, but he got out there and he actually threw himself at it. He was all over the place. And if half our team had shown that same commitment, we probably would have been in the game at 3/4 time. It probably would have been a lot closer. And then you think Long comes on with some fresh legs. Hey, we could have ran over him. But yeah, it took our injury start to come on at 3/4 time to show a bit of leg, show a bit of pace, and show us some wants at the ball and throw yourself at it. And yeah, it just 1 quarter of football, and I'm giving him a vote just for this showing that he wants to be out there and do the right thing for the team. So huge ups to Ben Long for what he did in that last quarter. To Jack Sinclair, he was one of the ones who actually, he put a fair bit in. It's far from probably one of his best games. It seems to be the team's a bit down. It obviously brings him a bit down as well, but he tried as much as he could, and it's just a lack of support probably made him look a bit worse than what he actually was. But as I'm saying, he stood fairly high above a lot of the others. And the guy that I probably would have liked to have given 6 votes is Carl Wilkie. Monster game. He's the reason we weren't 10 goals, 15 goals down 3/4 time. That's a massive, massive game from him. Didn't deserve to be in the back line on Friday night. Didn't deserve to be in our back line having what was coming at him. But to stand up the way he did, that was a brilliant game. And it'd be good to see him. I mean, it'd be great if he doesn't have to do anything like that every other week. But yeah, if he's in that sort of form and we're winning, hey, we'll win some games quite convincingly. So yeah, let's give him a rest this week and kick the ball down the other end.
Nick, your thoughts?
Pretty similar. Yeah, I think Ben Long was honourable, and I mean that's a bit of an indictment on the rest of the team that a guy plays a quarter and he's in the honourable mentions. But you're right, H. I mean, for a guy, and he's the perfect guy to come and do it, to be a bit of a spark plug when you need it. But ideally, you're not 6 or 7 goals down when it happens. But yeah, I was really impressed with Ben Long. I gave 1 vote to the skipper. Obviously not the season that he would like, that we would expect from him, that we would like from him, but just turns up week after week. The effort that you're getting from Steele, and he's one of those guys that, if nothing else, exactly what you're going to get from him in terms of effort and energy and intensity. He's a pro, and he turns up and he puts in a shift every week. Wasn't his best game by any stretch, but again, and in an indictment to the rest of the squad, that he can have an okay Jack Steele game and still earn a vote. I think that says about it. 2 votes I gave to Jack Sinclair. I think most other weeks, when we play good footy, that probably gets him 3 votes. But 36 touches is nothing to sneeze at in a debacle of a game like that, and still had 600 plus meters gained. He's doing a lot more winning the ball and then doing more with it when he's got it than he has historically. It's obviously been a bit of a breakout season, but we've said that about him for the last 2 seasons, I think. So just another continuation of his season, I think, for Sinks. But you're right, H. I think Cal was head and shoulders above the rest. We would have been triple digits down if not for Cal Wilkie. I mean,
again,
we spoke about the 16 marks you mentioned, Parko, before, but 14 intercepts.
Yeah.
I mean, his work ethic and ability to read the play, his intelligence as a defender, is so far head and shoulders above everybody else in our defensive unit. I mean, Josh Battle, I thought was okay. I thought he was pretty good, but Cal Wilkie is next level good, and continues to be underrated. I think he's starting to become more rated and more understood across the league, and certainly amongst St Kilda supporters. But I mean, that was an immense performance by Cal Wilkie.
Yeah, it was career high marks for him. He hasn't missed a game since debut, and he was the exception. We spoke about all the marks in defence earlier from the chipping. He was the one that was winning them back off the opposition. It was just we had no launch, unfortunately, from there. But yeah, my votes were exactly the same. I mean, Mason would make some mistakes, but I thought he worked pretty hard. Had an influence on the game. There wasn't really much else to report on. We certainly missed Seb Ross through the middle of the ground. His hardness, his clearance work. We got monstered in the middle in the first half. But yeah, I gave a vote to Jack Steele. Solid performance. Tried to lift us in the second quarter. Worked hard. Was limited. They put a lot of work into him. He's probably still carrying the shoulder to some degree. Gave 2 votes to Jack Sinclair. He's on track to win his first best and fairest and first All-Australian Guernsey in the same season. He's been outstanding this year. And yeah, Cal Wilkie, that's an example of someone just holding back the tide. We were under enormous pressure, getting flogged in clearances, getting flogged in inside 50s for periods of the game. The ease with which they were going forward compared to us, our defence was constantly under siege. And he's had the chance to captain the team this year, and during one of those games where Jack Steele was absent, and he is very much the leader of that defensive unit. And he's been fantastic. He gets the 3 votes clearly. yeah, I think with all due respect to defenders, if a defender is best on ground, you're probably having a tough day. And it turned out to be the case in this one. Now, we originally had Paul Callery lined up to chat. Instead, we'll chat to him next week. He's on Surfers Paradise at the moment, and some of that internet reception around sort of South Queensland, Northern New South Wales can always be a bit tricky and a bit dicey. So when he's back in Melbourne next week, he'll help us out. We will have a chat very shortly to Tim Gossage, who will jump on. Now, that's probably one of football's best, depending on who you speak to, best or worst kept secrets. He always gets accused of Western Australian bias, Tim Gossage, but that's ridiculous because he barracks for the Saints, and he'll have a chat to us about that journey. His hero is George Young. He's made a fine career over there in the West and tall enough to play in the ruck in the AFL. So we'll hear from him.
Steps around, Longmuir sold him the dummy, he paid full price, and Rewalt will lead out, no mark, here's Hamill, strong again. Rewalt's come down Ginger, it's come back to the left boot, the Saints have got another one, Stephen Power has got their eighth.
Well, a lot of people always talk about Basil over in the West, but Tim Gossage is the king of Western Australian media, and he is a passionate Saints fan, and I'm not sure that's something that everybody knows. Certainly hides it very well. A lot of people accuse him of a bit of WA bias, but he's actually one of ours. Goss, it's been a pleasure working with you over the journey, and nice to have you on.
Good to be on, and yes, the old mystery, who do I barrack for? It's been tagging me for a long time.
A lot of people in WA barrack, I imagine, for Victorian teams because they would have started following footy before the West Coast Eagles were born. Can you tell us your story about, I guess, how you came to be a Saints?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone barracked, you know, it was we had waffle football, and then we sort of had a connection to a Victorian team, VFL, and that was predominantly through the winners, of course, as well. That was our only take. And then I think on ABC radio, we'd get one game at lunchtime, at midday, it would come on. I barracked for St Kilda because I was 7, 8. George Young was my Subiaco hero, and he ended up going to St Kilda at the end of 72, if I stand corrected on that. And he had to go because someone had to leave Subi and take the money, because Subi wanted to recruit Ross Smith as their captain coach. And Ross Smith came across, coached Subi's premiership in 1973, their first flag in 49 years. Brian Sierakowski played in that flag as well, being a great St Kilda man, and George Young left. And as he left to find a club, he went to St Kilda, and that's why I barracked for the Saints.
Now, Goss, can you just confirm? I know we've just said it, but can you confirm in your own words that Tim Gossage is a St Kilda supporter?
I am a St Kilda supporter and have been since 1973.
Very, very good. Now, I just want to touch on something, because you do have another somewhat murky connection to St Kilda in your time with Subiaco. Now, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't know that you spent some time with Subiaco as a coach, and the man that you took over as coach of the under-19s, who went on to coach their seniors, and then became a senior coach at St Kilda, was Scott Waters. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and that relationship?
Yeah, 100%. So Scotty got the Subiaco Colts job, which is the TAC Cup, is the 19s predominantly. He got that job, and he got a few of his mates around to help out. He said, would I be interested? And our very first game, we coached a team up at Swan Districts, and a young boy came on the ground and jumped over the top of one of our players, went straight over the top of him, took mark of the year right underneath the coach's box. That was Nick Natanui, and that was our first experience of coaching Subi Colts. And then Scotty got the job in the league team to go up and coach. He replaced Peter German. He went league, and he handed over the reins to me, and I coached the Subi Colts for 2 years. And we made the finals in my first year, which is the first time we'd made the finals for 10. And then obviously Scotty found his way to St Kilda, albeit briefly.
Yourself as a player, how did you go yourself? Did you have a not bad clear? You're one of those good ordinary players in the country, or how sort of far did you manage to get?
Not very. I was very, and I'm not shy in telling anybody this, I was very good at a lot of things, but not great at any of them. I was a very good junior footballer, a very good cricketer, 9 for 8, 7 for 1, 7 for 9 in 3 weeks, including 2 hat tricks. I can rattle that off pretty quick. I kicked 13 goals in a game of under 15s once with Todd Breeman in the same team. Turbo, of course, went to Richmond, was drafted early to Richmond and played at West Coast. Then played a lot of hockey and tennis and stuff like that. My claim to fame was in 1989, I was playing for Wembley Amateur Football Club, playing seconds, which was the reserves, which is our D grade. And I kicked the winning goal to win the flag in 1989 at Lathlane Park, which is now a training venue for West Coast. I kicked the winning goal just on halftime. We didn't kick a goal after halftime, and if I don't kick that goal just on halftime, we lose by 4 points. So that's the winning goal, and I'm sticking to it. And that's where my career finished.
How many did they kick in the second half?
That's 7. We were hungover. We'd had a big night the night before.
Grand final celebrations 24 hours early. The media landscape in the West, I guess, from how that evolved. I mean, being a St Kilda supporter when the Eagles didn't have a presence in that competition, you still had the waffle, obviously. And then when the Eagles joined in 87, and then when that became a 2-team city in 95 with Fremantle coming in, I guess, how has that evolved? And I guess, what's that landscape like now?
As a supporter or in regards to the media?
I reckon both.
Supporter's a funny one. I mean, look, as soon as the Eagles came in, there was the diehard rusted on waffle football fan who said, I'm never going to barrack for a VFL team or an AFL team as it became, and they were dyed in the wool. There was a lot of Fremantle people who eventually jumped on West Coast. So you all had your North Melbourne. North Melbourne had a massive following. Carlton had a huge following, in particular those two, and I think Essendon as well. So there was a lot of WA footy fans who followed their waffle players across, and like I did for George, of course, going to St Kilda. But over time, the euphoric nature of West Coast and the 92, 94 flags, everyone piled on. Then there was Freo people who were West Coast fans, or waffle fans, then West Coast fans, and then, we've got our own team, the Fremantle Dockers. So they went and barracked for the Dockers. There's a lot of Dockers fans who were dyed-in-the-wool Eagles fans, but as soon as Fremantle came in. So that landscape has evolved over a period of time. Everyone has a waffle team. They just don't go to the games.
You've seen a lot of football, and obviously, firstly as a fan, a St Kilda fan, and then secondly as a commentator, broadcaster, presenter, etc. Is there one particular, I guess, let's go one St Kilda moment and one non-St Kilda moment that kind of sticks out as your favourites as having seen in person?
Yeah, look, I remember when Craig Devonport, I think, kicked 5 goals in one quarter at the Wacker in a night game. Yeah, and still lost because Troy Ugle kicked 5 goals in the last quarter for West Coast in the same game, if I remember rightly. Look, for me, for St Kilda, I was working for Channel 10, drawn grand final. I'd been in the lead up to that. Channel 10, to have a presence, would send over me. I'd do a week of reading sport, doing a couple of interviews and stuff like that, just as a presence. We were non-competitive in regards to ratings against 7. Obviously had the hold on it, and 7 had the rights. But so I went across for that week, and I remember being in the box when the ball bounced the wrong way. I looked down at my phone, the siren went, and I looked down at my phone, and it was my boss from Perth who said, "You're staying for another week." And I was sort of betwixt and between. I really wanted to get home because I'd been there for about 10 days. I sort of had that sick feeling that it was going to be a long week and it was going to end in a few tears. It could have been so different for me. So to be honest, that for me is a moment as a St Kilda fan. But my greatest time in football as a journo or a reporter, there were 2 very brief ones. 92 when West Coast won the grand final, and in those days it was carte blanche. Media didn't matter what TV station, Channel 7 had the rights, but every media outlet was allowed on the ground. You just brought you took your camera, you just ran around, did interviews as you wished. And I remember watching the whole game with Neil Brooks. Brooksy was working with a 7 at the time, and he's got a bit on his plate at the moment, Brooksy. But it was he was mad passionate, and we just loved it and screamed and carried on like being proud West Australians as we were. But my greatest moment, I reckon, was 2006. I'd been at the grand final working for Channel 10 on the boundary. We had the rights 2005. I remember walking on the ground at the quarter time in 2005. Neil Cordy was one boundary rider. I was the other, and Christy Malthouse was there. And I remember walking out to the huddle at 2005 at quarter time, and I stopped. And the MCG was almost fully developed, still being built. And I remember doing a complete 360 going, I'm on the MCG on grand final day, like working. I was very lucky. And then 2006, they won. And I remember going up to Ben Cousins, interviewing him for the coverage and saying to Ben, this is going to be one big party. And he turned to me and said, this party is going to be frightening. And never a more truer word spoken by Benny.
It finished in Richmond.
It did. He's going well now, Benny. He's going really well, which is fantastic to see.
Through playing tennis with Matty Ebden the other day. Sorry, hey?
Yeah, no, he's got he's in a really good space, touch wood, and he's doing a bit on TV. He's got a bit of a media profile, but life is going well for him. So let's hope that continues.
Now, everyone's probably heard a bit of your commentary over the time, though. You can get quite excited and get up and about, and that it is times you've commentated St Kilda over there and just giving it that little bit extra and or reporting on the news the Monday or whatever in the game that's been on, and just knowing yep well I got it this week, and just lifting. And how's that feel over there? Do you feel like you can really do that, or do you sort of have to go, no, I'm going to hide it a little bit and just try to keep the West Australians on side a little bit as well? Or?
Yeah, look, St Kilda has been my out for a long time. A lot of people align me to West Coast because I talk about 92 and 94. They're all my mates. I name drop 4 years, I will, but Woosher and Bluey and Summer and Jacko and Mitchell White and all those boys and Heinzie and all those guys, they're all my friends. They're the guys when I was a younger in the early 90s when they were trying to cut their teeth in the AFL. They were my friends, and we were close then. We played basketball together, we drink together, we would play cards together, and then you go and report on them. So I've always had that connection to West Coast, always felt that I had a bit of West Coast in me. Judgy came and coached and was very close to Ken Judge. Rest in peace. And I always had a bit of a connection, but I always sort of at Fremantle. I liked Freo. I lived down there. My two daughters were born down Freo way, so there was always that connection to Freo. But I've always had St Kilda as when people go, you're a biased West Australian. And I said, well, I do barrack for St Kilda, and I've always barracked for St Kilda, and I've actually never let go of barracking for St Kilda. I'm incredibly proud. One story about St Kilda, which I would never live down, and I don't know how this happened. I was commentating, Parko, you would appreciate this, and I was doing the game at Subi Oval, and Ben Allen was the special comments, the former Hawthorn and Fremantle man, and we did the whole game. And Twitter wasn't as prevalent, and your mobile phones wasn't. You didn't live on your mobile phone like I do now. And I called the whole game, and I called Jimmy Webster, Jimmy Walker, the former, and I called him the whole game. I called him Jimmy Walker. And as we said, and good night from Subiaco Oval, the Saints home by 24 points. And I took the headphones off, and then Ben said, you called him Jimmy Walker all night, don't you? And I went, why didn't you tell me? Well, the Kilda fans absolutely went feral on social media. If you call your Saints man, you got his name wrong. It was just one of those moments where I was just in the zone. And as you're talking about my commentary, I do have I do blow a foofer valve every now and then. And that was one of those moments. Never lived it down. But every time I see Jimmy Webster playing, it brings back the days of Jimmy Walker.
Now you've got your obviously your finger on the pulse in WA. Should we be concerned about Sunday? Obviously, St Kilda's form has been very ordinary in the last 6 weeks. The Eagles have got quite a few outs, but what do you think?
I do. I am concerned. I think that for what it's worth, the market is wrong. It's almost an even money game, and I know we, the Saints, are long odds on favourite. There's a bit to like about West Coast against Hawthorn last week. Hawthorn were near on full strength. West Coast had still got all those blokes out. We know. Depends if Kelly gets up. He's got the cork fine. Hasn't done a lot of training. They won't get any of their stars back. They've named, West Coast have named about 3. I know I think we've made a number of changes at St Kilda. Going to be wet. It's going to be real wet. We're going to get a bit of rain. We've got all the soccer teams over here tomorrow, Friday night and Saturday night. And so it's going to be a lot of action on that ground, and it's going to be a bit slippery and a bit cut up rough. So it is a massive danger game, so much at stake. West Coast will be nagging value, and there's a good vibe around West Coast at the moment, although they haven't got all their form back. I think as a general rule, they think they're tracking in the right direction and getting games into guys like Bazzo and Hoff, and Jermaine Jones has been rebadged as a backman and stuff like that. So, it's a danger game. I am concerned, and I think it's an even money game. I think we should still win St Kilda, but I genuinely think West Coast like their chances.
Goss, the connection between you in WA and other Western Australians with St Kilda, obviously, we mentioned Scott Waters before, who end up with us as the coach. There's been other guys from over West who have applied for coaching roles over the journey, but that period, you mentioned Ben Cousins after 06, but that period before Cuz signed with Richmond, and there was obviously very strong talk about him coming to St Kilda with Ross Lyon and the team then. But how did you feel, I guess, as someone who's seen it all unfold in Perth with Ben Cousins, and then the talk about him coming to St Kilda? What was that like?
Oh, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time. It was the worst kept secret in town. The people that he was involved with, and the party life, and what was ingrained in him and his lifestyle. And there was a lot of mistruths as well. I mean, a lot of people were calling us out as journos. The truth, start writing the stories. But it was not, to be honest, it probably was. I didn't feel as a journo in those days, and those around me who I was mentoring, or I was in charge of the department. So at the coalface, I had Katie Price, who now is in Melbourne, and Lockie Reed and other people, and Basil and Adrian Barrich and Mark Reddings and all Tanya Armstrong, all very good reporters, but they were footy reporters. It had almost gone out of the hands of the footy reporters to report on Ben and the stories and the speculation that had been going around and the company that he was keeping. It was being handled by news and news journos. It was a really difficult time to be a journo, and difficult time for Ken Judge. Difficult time. Judge probably lost his gig as coach of West Coast because of blind eye, accused of turning a blind eye to some of the stuff that was going on. And even post that time, there's a lot of talk about other players inside that group. But we all heard it, but we didn't mix. I didn't mix in those circles. And, we got a different story every day. I remember the day, absolutely, when Ben Cousins was stopped in the breathalyzer on Canning Highway down in Applecross, got out of his car. His then girlfriend was in the car, and friend. He got out of the car and took off, went through a restaurant, went out the back, started swimming across the Swan River, and then went missing for a few days. He rocked up to training at Kitchener Park, which was the oval next to Subiaco Oval. And I remember him walking very calmly with a coffee in his hand. All the media was there. Oh, there's Ben Cousins. He's showing his face. He's shown his face. He opened up the back of his gold Mercedes SUV and went, "So what's been going on?" And that was just Ben. And we loved Ben. Everyone loved Ben. And it was tinged with sadness. It was tinged with wow a lot. But it was a difficult story to cover because we were rusted on footy fans who loved Ben, had heard the stories. We didn't report as same. It was basically news journos in newspaper, radio and TV that covered off that stuff. But it was a difficult time, a really sad time, to be really honest. When you look back at it now, the difficult time that he went through, and in particular his family's gone through, and let's hope they're seeing the light now.
Goss, just quickly, you showed us very briefly before we started recording, you are holding a St Kilda Football Club tie. You want to tell us the story behind that?
Yeah, this is a tie, and it's just an AFL tie. And down the very bottom of it, the writing, it says St Kilda Football Club former players tie, right down the very bottom. And it is a Saints tie. It's got the Saints emblem on it. And that was given to me. I was actually at Ken Judge's place, the late Ken Judge's place. And he, in fact, I think Mike Sheehan was also there at the time. And Alan Jeans was there. Of course, Alan Jeans through his Hawthorn days with Judge's days. And Judge said, "Oh, did you know Goss was a St Kilda man?" He left the room and came back and went to his suitcase. I think he was staying with Judge at the time. And he brought that tie back and he said, "I don't need this. You can have this." And so, great keepsake. Very lucky to have it. St Kilda Football Club former players tie. So, very lucky and something's close to my heart.
Amazing.
Like I mentioned a name earlier, and we know that Perth's not a big town. There's a lot of rivalry from one side to the other. There's plenty of, I guess, trying to get on top of one to the other, that sort of thing. So, who is the biggest thing in Perth? Is it yourself or Basil? I mean,
That's not bad.
as a lot of people
Baz.
would probably would probably say that he's got you by a nose, but
he's a good man, Baz. He's a very, very, very good man. Been in the media for a long time. He has a very minimal role now with Seven. He doesn't do the news he used to do all the time. He's handed that over. He's doing breakfast radio. He's the Lord Mayor. He's still up and about. I think pound for pound, I'm probably the most credible out of the two of us. So that probably has everyone covered. But we share the podium, put it that way. But Perth is a very small place. If we're the cream, I hate to think about the rest of them.
Well, hopefully
we can hear it from over here. Don't worry.
If it goes the right way on Sunday, hopefully you can blare the song out of the car on the way home and just remind everybody
It's really hard.
It's
as Parker, you'll attest to this. It's really hard to commentate a game with when a team is playing against West Coast with the noise of acclamation and what Richo said, because you can get up and about for goal of the year, kicked by the Saints, marked by the Saints, and there's 200 people barracking for them. It doesn't hold as much verve and excitement when you're the commentator, but I'll do my best.
And you get daggers from those people that sit in front too. But Goss, thanks for jumping on last minute for us, and get them home on Sunday.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks, guys. Great listening.
Tim Gossage there. We look ahead towards the West Coast Eagles. Quite fitting that we spoke to Goss, given he's over there at the coalface at the moment in the lead up to what really is crunch time. It's another elimination final for us. The West Coast Eagles have clearly been better in the last, say, 8 weeks than they were in the first. But when we say that they've been better, they were pretty comfortably beaten by Hawthorn last week, and they went scoreless in 2 quarters against Carlton the week before, the first team in over 100 years to do that. They've still got quite a few players out, namely the likes of Sheed, Yo, McGovern, Natanui is absent for them. Oscar Allen, who's a good player, is not there. Looks like Tim Kelly will probably play. He got hurt last week with a corky, but obviously we'll find out closer to it. They've been better at home. They pushed Geelong at home. They beat Essendon at home, who have obviously been in better form. Then they had a pretty ordinary day against Carlton, save for a second quarter burst. They've been beaten on the road by Richmond, beaten on the road by Hawthorn. And for us, we obviously enter the game with at least 3 changes. So we know Paddy Ryder out for at least the home and away season. Hopefully there is a chance for him to come back because we play finals. They've omitted Wanganeen Malera, which I kind of understand. His weapon is his kicking, and he's been a little bit off in recent weeks, which I think is a bit of system in part playing a role in that. But maybe needs a spell, although his pressure was far better than a lot of his teammates last week. So, I think he out-tackled half the group or more. And also Zach Jones. So if there was a big name omission, it is Zach Jones, who has been omitted from the group. Hunter Clark comes back in, which is obviously very pleasing. Looking at some of the others that they've brought into the fold for that game. Tom Campbell, so it depends if they want to pick 2 ruckmen. Obviously Rowan Marshall, I think, had been a little crook. Leo Connolly, Jared Lynett, Marcus Windhager and Seb Ross. So obviously Clark and Ross, definite ins. I sense Windhager probably plays. I think Burns might get squeezed from that extended bench. So if we look at our extended bench, Patton, Burns, Windhager, Clark, Long, Highmore, Connolly, and Campbell. So 4 of those don't play. So I think Burns, Connolly miss. I think Campbell misses. I reckon they might go with one ruckman. And then it's a question of whether it's Patton, Windhager, Long, or Highmore that don't play out of that group. But Nick, your thoughts towards the other West Coast Eagles?
Interesting, really interesting selection. I feel for Wanganeen Miller because I feel like, and you're spot on about his weaponry kind of not being up to his usual standard, and whether that's system based or fatigue or whatever it is, you know, his tool, his skill set is his disposal, is his kicking, and that it hasn't been there in recent weeks. But when you're dropping a guy, when your team's issue and has been for a period of time, I mean, for us, it's about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, is that effort and intensity and energy. And you drop a young guy in his first season who is outperforming a bunch of his more experienced veteran teammates in that metric, in that, in the way that you measure those things, tackles, chases, etc. I feel like that sets a really poor example. Because yes, we want him to be better with his kicking. Yes, we want him to be more daring and show the dash and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. But that's a team issue. It feels like. It doesn't feel like that's a Nasiah Wanganeen Miller issue. But he's still doing those things that others aren't doing. And so I really feel for him. I'm not sure it sets the right example or sets the right message to the young blokes and even to the older blokes in the squad that's what happened. Unless there's some other underlying message or other things that, you know, Rats and the footy department want him to work on this week. But I feel like on a big ground, you want runners, you want guys who can deliver the ball. And I think you're right. I think that Campbell hasn't really done anything wrong in the twos and is clearly the next man up in the ruck. But I feel like on this ground against this team, you want ball winners, you want runners, you want mobile, agile, athletic players, and we need guys who can run. And so I think you're right. I think that we play the likes of Windhager. I think Burns probably doesn't play, but that they're going to try and get some runners back into the team, and Long deserves his spot, obviously, on the back of that final quarter. But it's really tough. You mentioned that they've been better in the last 6 or 8 weeks, and they have. But clearly the bar was not set high from the first half.
They've only won one of those games. So.
They've had massive issues, and they are potentially this season the worst team in the league. I mean, I consider this game a worse loss than losing to the Kangaroos.
It's without question the worst West Coast Eagles team in the history of that club.
In the history of the West Coast Eagles. And there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it's not their fault.
Better than the first team.
Yeah,
100%, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. But we heard from Rewalt that there's things about whether it's trying and really trying. Like there's a difference between you trying out there and you're actually putting in 100% effort. The old Saints footy and the 100% effort, 100% of the time, or all of that sort of stuff that we've heard before, the cliches. But I think that is right. That there is a difference between going out there and trying, and there's going out there and really, really trying. And it's yet to be seen whether we do that this week. But if you can't get up against this West Coast team in the situation, the season that they're having, in the situation and the season that we're in, when you still got a shot after everything that we've seen over the last 2 months, you still got a shot. We win this game and we're in the 8. I mean, that's the story. That's the message. You go out there and you flog them. Like, if we don't do that, then we don't deserve to be having this conversation next week.
And it'll be a very different conversation, that's for sure.
Well, that's right. And we've heard a lot of conversation out of the club. There was the video that we touched on earlier about the you're not fucking good enough. You've got to have that conversation. That video came out today. We're hearing Brett Ratton's given a number of blokes the last chance kind of warning. If this is their last chance, and I said this on Twitter earlier in the day, if we're having conversations, if you have to within the club have these conversations where heading into a game against the worst team in the competition, that you've got to give guys last chance warnings, then we're really not as good as we should be. And we're not as good as we have to be having finals conversations and finals campaigns and finals runs. And we've just got to get better. And this is the first step to us showing that we actually want to be there in September.
And my worry, H, with things is
the fifth step. We're still doing that. And, we've just got to actually take that step.
My worry, H, with that is that if you fire a team up or you give them a spray or you ask for a response, the response has to be sustained. So the worry is that you get a response and then it falls back down again, because sooner or later that stops working. And then you've got problems. So you need to tap into a sustainable method like you had at the start of the year. It can't just be, let's fire up and win, and then the bad habits return when you play Hawthorn a week later. They've got to tap into something that can run them through to the end.
And also can't reappear at halftime.
That's right.
That you can't rev them up to get out there for the first half of the game, and then it just drops downhill. I mean, if that happens, you at least go, okay, hopefully we had so much runners in that first half that we've got a big enough lead that we hold on to it, or it's sort of just sustain that lead. But you want to see after this week, after what everyone said, after what has happened and the players we've seen dropped and that, you want us to win 4 quarters. You go out there and win every single quarter. You don't take your fly out of the box the first quarter, second quarter, sort of just drift along, think, oh, get another little bit of a rev at halftime, come out again, and then dive at the end of the game. We want to see 4 quarters of this is the bottom of the ladder team. We're going to beat them up. We're going to make them look like the bottom of the ladder team. Don't just turn up and just go out there thinking, oh, that's where they belong. We'll just beat them. It won't be hard. It won't be that. You go out thinking like that, the game becomes very hard. They're not thinking that way. They're thinking, hey, here's a team. We'll beat it. We can beat them if we play our game. We can knock them off. They got players who it's getting towards the end of the season who, once all their good players start returning, like say for next year, or some of these guys may never get another game again. They've still got a few, I guess, lower end, top up kind of players that haven't had much of a chance. And this is their opportunity to say, keep me on next year. They're fighting for their careers. That's the sort of team you really don't want to go half-hearted against, because they're throwing everything at it. They're ready to give everything for it. So
I don't think that we learn much out of this game in a positive sense from the result per se. Like if we come out and we win by 12 goals, well, we've beaten West Coast, the worst team in the league.
It's 4 points
in the history of the Eagles. Yeah. It's correct. It's 4 points. We did what we had to do. We're better than them. We should beat them, and we did. Like it almost doesn't matter, even if we beat them by 160 points. It's this. Yeah, the message is the same. What we
wouldn't mind a percentage.
But if I was going to say,
of course. But
if we don't,
from a team perspective, we don't learn anything from that.
No.
What we can learn from, and it doesn't matter if we win by 1 point or 100 points, is if we come out and show that sustained effort. And if we come out and we play football for 4 quarters, then we can sit back and say, hey, it can be done. We know we can do it. If we come out and we play half-hearted footy for 3 quarters and we win by 100 points, then like we actually don't learn much from that, but we can learn from what needs to be done on the field. And that's doing those intangible things. It's the team-oriented things. It's the chasing, the tackling, the pressure, the 1%ers, those effort things that sometimes are hard to be counted on the stat sheet, but we need to do that for 4 quarters.
If we're off for,
I was going to say, one thing that will throw a little bit of a cat amongst the pigeons, though, will be the weather. They are expecting 20-25 mils of rain on Saturday. So the ground, it's been pretty wet over there recently. If you'd seen the Freo game last week, the ground was quite soft and muddy. And so Saturday they're expecting 20-25 mils of rain. Only a couple of mil on actual game day, but it might be a bit wet. So there's a good chance that the tolls may not be the way to go as well for that reason. So it's going to be interesting. I reckon there'll be maybe a few last minute selections made depending on what the ground's like when they walk out there to have a look.
So our awards now, that's So St Kilda. For me, it's probably, I kind of ranted about it a bit in our Facebook group during the week, in that, you know, when things go wrong for us, there's always sort of layers to it. I look at, say, Darcy Moore at Collingwood, for example, where he does his knee, practically gets carried off on a stretcher and put in an ambulance and misses a week. We had Paddy Ryder do a calf, which is old man injury. I get that. But Daniel McKenzie gets a concussion against Brisbane innocuously, just backing back, trying to take a mark. Then does his carpet training, again. I think he got COVID in there somewhere as well, and he's probably out for the year. Just things like that. It's always frustrating. Hunter Clark had a 6 to 8 week injury and missed 14. Dan Hanbury hasn't played for 13 years with calf and hamstring complaints. So there's always another layer, and it's frustrating. But H, have you got one?
I think it's just the fact that it comes down to playing the worst team in the league to keep the season alive, and just knowing that how bad it could be if it doesn't come off. It's
the whole banana plantation.
We sit through Friday night, we sit through Saturday, we sit through Sunday morning and afternoon, and to get to twilight Sunday, the graveyard shift, to sit there and hope that it doesn't all just fall over. And yeah, what a worse place to do if it does.
Oh, we're in the final stretch of a season where Dan Hanbury's getting fit and is just about ripe to come in and have 3 weeks of 30 touches and a couple of goals, and he'll earn himself another year contract and then miss all next year. But no, that's a little bit facetious, but also really serious.
The truth.
The reality is that the Bulldogs have been pretty garbage most of the year, and a lot of the reason for that is that their prime mover, Marcus Bontempelli, has had a down year for him, and we managed to play him into form. Their number one draft pick, the next big thing in Jamari Ugle-Hagan, has not shown much, and we played him into form. So, we're just about right to play this West Coast Eagles VFL team into form, and they'll probably roll us. That would be so St Kilda.
Bloody oath. The Jason Blake Awards, I don't know whether we just scrap it and universally give it to Kel Wilkie, but do we? I'll throw it open to you guys first, see if you can find some individuals. I might throw Mason Wood into the mix. I thought he was okay on the weekend, but what have you got for us, Nick?
I want to give this one to someone who hasn't played all year and will not play again, Jaron Geary.
Yeah,
I think we owe this guy some credit. I think the AFL environment and community owes this guy some credit. He's been an absolute warrior for us for a decade, and it's been a really tough year, a really tough decade for someone to come in and lead this club. I'm not sure anybody said it quite as well as RWB Footy, who we talk a little bit about on this program, but this is a little bit of a paragraph from RWB. Geary was the last direct link to the Ross Lyon era. His war stories aren't quite the same as many in the Rewalt generation. He wasn't out there on the biggest days, named as an emergency for all three of the 09 and 10 grand finals, came on as a sub in the bleak 2011 elimination final. His lot was playing a role in trying to guide a heartbroken club back to relevancy and vitality. He had the difficult task of having to be the club's first captain, following on from Nick Riewoldt, arguably our greatest ever, while carrying the title alongside the likes of his good friend and triple premiership player and finals mainstay Joel Selwood. He played that role to some success. For now, he remains the answer to the trivia question: who was the last player to captain St Kilda to a finals win? And Jaron Geary, I just want to pay credit to a guy who gave absolutely everything that he had to our footy club. I mean, just as much potentially as any hardcore St Kilda Football Club fan and supporter and member and whatever. Jaron Geary gave absolutely everything, blood, sweat, tears, and his entire body. I just wanted to pay credit to Jaron Geary and his time with our footy club.
Yeah, you can't help it but have admiration. I mean, a rookie listed player in the 50s plays 200 games and captains the club. And I think that was summed up beautifully by the guys that, he just took on the tasks that you asked him to do. None of those tasks are favourable. You've got to take over from Nick Riewoldt, a club legend. You've got to captain a club that's down near the bottom of the ladder. He nearly broke his leg off smothering a ball against Melbourne, ended up in hospital, came back and played, broke his leg again, came back and played, come back from so many injuries, courageous marks, gutsy player, had some limitations, sure. But yeah, he gave heart and soul, a wonderful, wonderful servant of the club, deserves all of that praise. H, I guess thoughts on the outgoing former skip and also your Jason Blake?
You could pretty much say that his heart was bigger than his ability, that's for sure. But he certainly gave it every time he was out there. That's kind of what you want in a teammate. That's why he got picked as a captain. So, and yeah, I think that's pretty much. He probably should have gone before Nick for that one. So,
Sorry about that.
yeah, no, that's probably would have been the better way to have finished that one off. But yeah, I probably would have been going with Wilkie as well. I think, yeah, he got given credit for his game, but yeah, we're still yet to see. He still wasn't best on ground. So for us, it's quite amazing when you look back at the game.
Again, I don't mean to do it, but I almost call this a Dan Butler award. It just almost comes out. I don't mean for that to be the case, but Shannon Noel, H.
Aye.
'Cause I know how hard it can get. You gotta live.
It's got to be Brad Hill this week. He's going back to a ground he knows. He's basically got to step up. He's got 5 weeks left to show why he should be a leader of our team, to lead the way. So he's going back to his old home ground this week. He plays his former team next week. And it's his time to stand up. It's his time to show the sort of football that he knows that he can play, the sort of football that he knows needs to be played to get into finals. He's got to step up and be a leader for this last month of football now. It's his time to do it.
Yep.
A little bit different, but every now and then we always hear about how Vic-centric media and the football community is. I guess we're all based in Melbourne, obviously, and you always hear from over west that the media, whatever it is always Melbourne centered, and you don't get enough good quality stuff out of or for WA. But WA media this week, and there's been a bunch of Twitter accounts, the Optus Stadium Twitter accounts, a number of WA media organizations referring to St Kilda in content, in copy, in social media. I mean, guys,
I'm pretty sure that's banter, isn't it? Though, are they poking it at us?
No, this is legit. It's in multiple. It's in multiple forms. It's been on images, in graphics. It's been in text. It's been in copy. Like, guys, come on, get better.
It is another country. They probably haven't heard of us before. So. I remember going over to England when the Ashes were on in 2015 and reading in the paper, they didn't refer to Australia as Australia. It was like when we take on the penal colony and the colony, whatever the word is, in the Ashes. And I'm like, bloody hell. But they are a bit different over in the West, that's for sure. But yeah, for me, it's probably there's any number of players that they could probably get the gong. I think you're right on Brad Hill, H. He's still a little bit too easy to take out of games. If you tag him, you'll get 7 touches. You won't sort of shake the tag, get 20 and have a slightly quiet day. He'll either get 30 or 8. It's sort of one or the other for him, unfortunately. But for me, it's probably, Jack Higgins, I still think is a really important player for us, but, he misses a lot of chances. He's nearly there. He's a bit too up and down. Harsh to put it on him in a game where we got belted last week, but, he's a genuine match winner. And I'm hoping, last time he went to Optus Stadium, that's exactly what he was. So fingers crossed that he can do that for us again here. If we're slightly off, we'll obviously give them a sniff. And obviously in their position, playing at home late in the season, with a bit to prove, Josh Kennedy's probably only got a couple of games left in his career, then you can create problems for yourself. So you can't, allow them that sniff. I guess the final thought from me is that my message would be, and look, for what it's worth, it would be that don't panic, in the sense that I think they've played a bit scared in recent weeks, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of, getting dropped or whatever it may be. And they've gone away from things that were working. And it's, I won't say it's weak, but it's not quite as, I guess, as mentally resilient as you'd like them to be. But you've got to keep the faith, in the sense that, there have been times this year where you've done it. And I guess the follow-up question to that would be, I'm sick of having to defend you all the time. I'm sick of, and I'll always do it, but stand up for yourselves. You know, you're copying it from everybody. What do you want to stand for in that sense? Like, do you want to let the season just slowly, piss down the drain, or do you want to, dig your heels in and go, no, there is another shot left in us. If we go down swinging. Because we're always,
if you don't want to fight for the jumper, then don't wear it.
That's right. It's your reputation and your career. As I said, we'll come here. We've copped it forever, like whatever. But what do you want to stand for? Again, we ask that question. So, take control of your own destiny again and put yourself back in the fight. It's that simple to me, anyway. We look ahead to Sunday. Go Saints! And as we say, this conversation could be anything next week.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on, we're going to survive,